Welcome back to the CoDaKrew podcast, and it is that time of year. It is Champions League knockout predictions time, and so Swapno and I are going to be using our crystal balls, being Nostradamuses, and telling you how the Champions League from round of 16 all the way to the finals in Budapest are going to go. Swapno, let's get started.
Okay, PSG versus Chelsea. I know these guys were playing out the Club World Cup not that long ago, or a few months back. Forget that. These two teams are not the same that they were like 8, 9 months ago. PSG have had, in particular, a lot of trouble putting up a good 11 lately. Of course, Donnarumma's gone to Man City, but personally, I want to focus on Fabian Ruiz because when he plays alongside Vitinha, PSG have great midfield control, and as of lately, with him injured, they have not. They were sorely missing it, in particular against Monaco in the playoff. Gave up so many chances in that first leg, had to be saved by like Desiree Doué and co, scoring lots of goals. And they just played Monaco again in the league and got fucking smoked. So yeah, their attack is still strong on paper, but that midfield, I'm really questioning it. Plus, they push their fullbacks high, so if Chelsea get a few good runs in behind them, they could just get outscored. And speaking of Chelsea, I know they've been wildly inconsistent, even under Rosignol. They draw Burnley one game, they smash Villa 4-1 the next, right? But I will say, besides that, I do like Chelsea's matchups here. Joao Pedro against that PSG backline, I think is going to be really good. He could probably play similarly to how Balogun played for Monaco, even in that earlier match against PSG, dropping into pockets to create. He can run channels, find a bit for his team too. I think it's pretty good for Chelsea with the matchups here. Pedro and the wingers as well will have a lot of space to attack, again, behind that high line. So, yeah, PSG do have the UCL experience, but I wouldn't write off Chelsea. They have their advantages here, too.
Yeah, I think for PSG, the biggest issue is what you were just talking about. Fabian Ruiz, as well as Fabian Ruiz as well as Joao Neves are out. So it's going to be Vitinha and some backup midfielders for PSG. To be fair, they do have actually some pretty solid backups. Zaire Emery, Lee Kang In. We actually saw this rotation, which helped them a lot to win the Champions League last season. But I would say that against Chelsea, they have, for example, Caicedo, who's been incredibly consistent this year, Reece James. Unless PSG are able to stop them from turning that possession into attacks, I think PSG are going to really struggle in the midfield, especially in the first leg, while a lot of these players are not back yet. And I think you're right. This has definitely caused them to suffer recently. The Monaco games are just one example, but I think a more telling thing for the whole season is the fact that PSG, despite being clearly the best team on paper in League One, have the league still very much in jeopardy for them. They're still very much in a title race, which was absolutely not the case for them in the Champions League last season, and it was actually a big reason why they were able to focus on the Champions League. There was a headline a few days ago about how the French league system postponed one of PSG's matches to make sure they would be well rested for this game, and I think that goes to show. I mean, first off, I think that's a disgrace. I don't think that should be happening, but the fact that it needs to, I think, is a bad sign for how PSG have been as of recent.
Yeah, I think this will be a toss up for a lot of people just because again, PSG won the UCL but Chelsea won the Club World Cup, right? So they both got recent honors. I expect it to be a very open tie. I think PSG probably have the higher attacking ceiling, but Chelsea can probably beat them physically and yeah, they can really attack that PSG midfield and high line as well. I'm going to say PSG can maybe rack up some goals in that first leg at home, but I'll say Chelsea find enough to edge it out at Stamford Bridge. I know we don't have score lines here that we specifically need to enter. I'm going to say it's like a 5-4 on aggregate. This will be a very exciting tie, I think.
You said disregard the Club World Cup, but you're going to go with a repeat performance of the Club World Cup here.
Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, as for me, I'm just a little bit worried about this Chelsea side because
Okay.
while offensively they can definitely pose a big threat against PSG for sure, we know that this squad rises to the occasion in big matches. We saw it last season in the Champions League, and the biggest issue, the biggest reason people were doubtful about PSG last year was the fact they didn't have that experience. They do now, and it is now Chelsea who clearly do not have that experience. They do not have an experienced striker, although Joao Pedro is on good form right now. They don't have an experienced center back. Robert Sanchez is not a consistent goalkeeper. And so even though PSG's form has not been great recently, I think Chelsea to have an overwhelming attack to have a chance of winning this match, and they just don't have it. Joao Pedro, again, has been amazing. Cole Palmer, you know how good he can be in cup ties, but Steve Yao is still injured. The other attacking options are just absolutely not good enough at all for this quality of match. So based on experience, I think PSG can still pull through here.
Okay. Yeah. Then you'll have PSG going through to the quarters. I've got Chelsea. And with that said, we can go on to the next match, which is Galatasaray versus my guys, Liverpool. I wish I could make a straightforward prediction here, but Gala showed they can frustrate us. Their home stadium is one of the toughest in Europe. We saw them put that to great use when they beat Juve 5-2 in the first leg of that playoff matchup. And our defense has been shaky this whole season as well. And I think someone like Osimhen, who with his pace and his physicality, he can cause us some real problems. At the same time, though, a lot of the scoring in that Juve match, I feel like, could be chalked up to mistakes from Juve. Like their keeper, Di Gregorio, he mishandled the ball for Gala's like second half equalizer in that first leg match. And of course, the red card, which Juve then matched with another red card in the second leg. So, and speaking of that second leg, Gala almost managed to even throw away their lead there somehow, a 3-goal lead. So it's questionable. Gala were able to really rack up the goals at the start, but it was questionable them holding on to that lead. As for us, we have lots of theoretically good attackers here. Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike. Wirtz might not be there for the first leg. He should be there for the second. Now, do I think they're all going to work together? Absolutely not. But I do think at least one person can step up in this tie. And given Gala's apparent issues protecting a lead in an away game, I do think if we can stay no more than a goal down in that first leg, we can probably turn it around in the second. I just have to think that though Gala did so well against Juve were also trying so hard to shoot themselves in the foot. And while we've been bad defensively, it's still only like you could go 1 goal down against Wolves. Sure, that's bad. But you don't go like 3 goals down. That's not what usually happens to us. And I don't think we're going to allow that much of a lead for Gala in that first leg in Turkey. So they'll have problems coming back to Anfield.
To be fair, though, you did say if Galatasaray are not do not hold more than a 1-goal lead after that first leg, and I'm not so sure about that, man, because yes, I know how many teams have you lost by 3 goals against? How many teams have you played against that play like Galatasaray? 0, right? I mean, I guess Galatasaray the other time you played them,
right?
Which, spoiler alert, you did not win that match. You lost.
I mean, to be fair, we also lost it by 1, though, so you could consider that.
That's true. Here's what I will say, though. I don't want to just chalk up Galatasaray's performance to Juventus having backline errors, because that is intentional playing by Galatasaray. We have to put a lot of respect on Victor Osimhen's name. Finishing, hold the play, anchoring, passing, he is a complete striker. I would argue he's actually still a top 5 striker in the world. And another ability he has is that high press. It's not that Juventus were just giving away chances for free. It's that Galatasaray, through their gegenpress, forced those errors. You guys, Liverpool, you push up your fullbacks, and so ball progression for your center backs, Van Dijk and Konate, has been an issue in the past. And I think that will be an especially exploited issue against Galatasaray. So I don't know that. I mean, if Galatasaray can go 3 goals up in that first leg against Juventus, are you sure they can't go 3 goals up against you?
No, it's possible. Our defense has been dog shit in some games. I mean, if I could think of one game where that did happen, it was like the PSV 4-1, which was also a UCL game. So sure, that's fair. But what I'm going to say is how that first leg goes is going to make a big difference. What sort of advantage Gala can build up for themselves. I'm going to say they don't find a big lead just because I think our defense has improved somewhat since back when we had that PSV loss or back when we lost to Gala in Turkey. I'll say, they go up a goal at most. I'll give them like a 2-1 in that first leg. And maybe they find a goal at Anfield, but I think we just outscore them as much as we need to. I'm going to say it is either a 4-2 or a 4-3 to Liverpool, but I'm going to have us going through.
Okay, fair enough. I was going to say that I have a very similar idea as you. I don't have exact score lines. I think Galatasaray could score by more. Of course, could win by more in that first leg. The issue is, again, at Anfield, away from home, I'm very unsure about the squad. As you said, they choked away a 3-goal lead against a 10-man Juventus. a Juventus side who is, very far from their peak, let's just say. And for Liverpool, what I said about Galatasaray's offense can also be said to an extent for Liverpool. The inventors of the gegenpress was Jurgen Klopp. That what he did with this Liverpool side, and just like Osimhen is incredible at forcing errors from back lines, Ekitike can absolutely do the same thing. In fact, that is one of his best qualities for Liverpool. Him and Wirtz, I think, can definitely cook in these matches. And as long as Liverpool are able to get past Galatasaray's first line of pressing, players like Wirtz will have a lot of time on the ball to create opportunities. And not having a lot of time, I think, is the only reason why Wirtz has struggled at points in the Premier League season. So I think him and Ekitike can cook, especially at home. I think, while I have concerns about their abilities against the quote-unquote big teams, not to say Galatasaray isn't a big team, but I think the pressure is not as on in this match. I agree with you in the end. I think Liverpool do have enough firepower. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you guys would like, but I do agree with you in the end. Liverpool can get the dub here.
All right. In that case, we can move on to a matchup that seems to happen in every UCL now. It is Madrid
Royal
City.
Classical.
Yep. But I don't know that it'll be as even as usual because Madrid and Barcelona have been having a straight mid-off as of late. Not bad by the average club standards, but definitely bad by theirs. Madrid missed out on the UCL knockouts, got smashed by Benfica when it happened, got knocked out in the Copa del Rey, lost to Getafe at home, got outscored. They didn't score against Getafe. Getafe scored against them. I don't know how it happened. They can hardly manage.
It's how it happened.
They can hardly manage a clean sheet with Courtois between the sticks. They've got so many injuries too. Mbappe, Bellingham, Rodrigo, Militao, if you want to look at the back line. They're not stable right now. And you've got a matchup of Arbeloa versus the Pep Guardiola. Arbeloa is not outplaying Pep. So I think the Madrid's best chance against City is in the first leg. They've got to outscore him. But again, when so many key attackers are either injured or suspended, it's not a great state for them to be in before such a high-level match. Whereas for City, they had a weird start to the season too, but they've slowly stabilized. They look much closer to the level you expect from this club. They've especially improved defensively now that they've got Guehi. Madrid has attacking talent still, sure. Of course, they've got Vinny, but they're weakened, and they're going against what is a quite strong defense now. Plus, City's attacking lineup is great. You've got Haaland, Haaland actually was sidelined even versus Newcastle earlier today, just for this match. So that's not... He'll be at peak performance. Marmoush, Semenyo, O'Reilly stepped up lately. City's got great attackers. I think their attacking lineup might be... I'll say it is better, what they have available, than what Madrid does. And again, their defense is definitely better. So, yeah, this could be a rout. It could be. I'm not saying it necessarily will be, but it could be bad.
I think on paper, this is not a close matchup at all, in fact. But the truth is, when we have such derbies like this, and especially a derby that Real Madrid has historically dominated, historically is a kind of odd word because it's really like this decade that we're talking about. But anyhow, I do think that will be a big factor. I think, obviously, the absolute chaos that has been happening in the Real Madrid locker room for months now has hurt them in a lot of matches. But I think in such a big game, that sort of almost just doesn't matter. The game naturalizes a player like Vinny Jr., for example, who has a ton of experience under the bright lights. He can just absolutely cook a defense by himself. And while Manchester City's defense has strengthened, especially with Guehi, who has been amazing since he's come to the club, obviously City still have the fullback weakness. They have offensive fullbacks, and that can hurt when you're up against somebody like a Vinny Jr. But that being said, I definitely agree that City have the stronger offense. No Bellingham, no Mbappe, no Rodrigo, who, although he hasn't been very good this season, is always a threat in the UCL. City obviously have more of an attacking threat there. Ryan Aït-Nouri has contributed a lot to, running in channels and behind, stretching out defenses. And when I look at Real Madrid's backline, I don't know if they have the capacity to deal with that. Because, Raul Asensio, for example, I think has had a big backslide this year. Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's already a given that he's going to contribute jack shit defensively. And so, when you look at players who could potentially be on the left side, just hypothetically speaking, Turkey, Semenyo, even O'Reilly, it is going to be a very, very tough ask for Real Madrid.
Yeah, I'm just going to say quickly, I expect this tie to also be very open because both teams have too much attacking talent for this to stay quiet. But I do think comparing their defenses, I trust City's defense to hold up a lot more than Madrid's. I can't say how much of a lead they're going to have, but I'm going to give them the win in this one.
I think that's fair. I think the only way that Madrid can win this match, given that they are arguably at a disadvantage both offensively and defensively, is through the midfield. Valverde and Tchouaméni have been very good, especially in sort of these sorts of big matches. Tchouaméni, for example, I would argue was the difference that bailed them out against Benfica. Valverde, I think, started the season off not very well, but has definitely improved recently. But City's midfield is just no slouch. They have so much talent in there as well. And if you want to expect this Real Madrid side, who historically wins this tie actually by playing on the counterattack to win through possession, I don't know that they're capable of doing that. So I'm also going to have a Man City win.
Okay. Then we will move on to Atalanta versus Bayern. And, okay, Atalanta deserves a lot of credit, I think, just for getting here, because they had a great comeback against Dortmund. This is a team that can score in bunches, which they showed against Dortmund. We've seen that in Serie A at times. The issue is Atalanta also concedes plenty. Even in that comeback against Dortmund, Guirassy had two massive chances that could have killed the tie completely. And against Bayern, with guys like Kane, Diaz, maybe even Musiala if he comes back to form soon enough, it is a completely different story. And Bayern, for their part, they look like one of the most dangerous attacking teams in the competition, if not the most. You could say them. Personally, I'd say Barca have got more attacking talent going, but we do see Kane. Kane is just crazy. How do you?
I disagree, by the way.
Okay,
I
that's
think Bayern
fair.
have a better attack than Barca. But,
okay,
but teach though.
Yeah, Kane has been relentless in front of goal, right? Across all competitions, UCL included. Musiala has come back from injury. That adds another creative threat. Plus, Company's side plays at a pace that can just overwhelm teams creatively. Do it very quickly. I mean, look at their past few games. They've got 5-goal wins against teams like Leipzig, Stuttgart, Hoffenheim, who really are not that far off, if at all, from Atalanta. Atalanta could definitely find a draw in this first leg. Maybe they get the better of Bayern even with a 1-goal lead. But across 2 legs, I find it very hard for them to keep any sort of advantage.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Before I speak, I want to just get things clear. Is Harry Kane confirmed to be back for the first leg? Do you know?
I believe he is. Yes. I don't think there's confirmation, but I think he is there. Yes.
Okay. So my argument coming into this was I think the only way Atalanta has a possibility of winning this tie is if Harry Kane is not back for the first leg, because Atalanta, weak back line, their strength is in the attack, right? Zappacosta and Bernasconi, very offensive sort of wing backs, and then a very strong front three as well. And I think if we have an off night potentially from somebody like Musiala not coming back to form, maybe Harry Kane isn't back. You could see someone like an Elise who maybe has less experience in these sorts of matches struggle a little bit. But I think ultimately I agree with you. Once this game goes to the Allianz Arena, once Bayern has their full squad, once Atalanta have to try to dig down and somehow defend this absolute juggernaut of an attack Bayern have, there's no way they can hold on. So I'm going to have a Bayern win.
Yeah, and it's same for me. I think Atalanta could make this fun in the first leg, but across 2 legs, I don't see them outscoring Bayern, which is really what they have to do because they're not going to out-defend Bayern. So yeah, I'll just give it to Bayern to continue on. And with that said, we can go on to Newcastle versus Barcelona. I mean, these two already met earlier in the competition. Barcelona went up to St. James's Park, came away with a 2-1 win. I will say Newcastle were able to make the match interesting. They had pace on the wings with Gordon and Elanga, exactly the kind of thing that can cause problems for Barca's aggressive highline. And if Sandro Tonali can escape the press and release those runners quickly, Newcastle will get chances. The issue for me at this moment is Newcastle are missing some very key players here, namely Bruno Guimaraes. He's the one who normally keeps their pace up, dictates that midfield tempo, and here he would help them find the ball in stretches where Barcelona might try and just dominate possession. Without him, there is a real chance Newcastle get none of the ball for stretches of like 10, 15 minutes at a time, and they'll just be chasing shadows. I don't think they can keep up the tempo they need if he's not playing, and it doesn't seem like he will be. And yeah, if that is the case, if Newcastle have trouble with pace, Barca can take control of this tie. Their midfield has more creativity, more control, Pedri pulling the strings, combined with the constant movement of players like Yamal. It's going to make them extremely difficult to defend against. And Barca knows as well Newcastle's best chances are going to come in transition. So they will try and suffocate those moments with, again, sustained possession. And yeah, if Guimaraes isn't playing, I see that they can make that a real issue for Newcastle. Newcastle does have a nice physical midfield, but Barca just have, I think they have more consistency there, more depth at the moment, and also a much more potent attack. So I think, yeah, it'll be real trouble for Newcastle.
And way less of a potent midfield, way less of a physical midfield than if Bruno Guimaraes is just there, right? He obviously, I think, is by far their best midfielder. I mean, he's their captain, and Lewis Bailey as well. Arguably, maybe even their second best midfielder, I would say. Especially in a match like this where you need somebody creative, somebody to break lines, take advantage of the few chances you get. Having him out as well is going to be a big loss. And so I think physicality is the only way you can contain Barcelona's midfield because, as you said, they have a player known as Pedri. But Newcastle just seem incapable of doing that with the squad they have right now. And you combine that with a Bernal, the offensive talent of a Fermin. Newcastle, I just don't see a way to contain that Barcelona midfield. And if they can't contain Barcelona's midfield, good luck containing Barcelona's attack. Lamine Yamal and Rafinha are absolutely lights-out players when it comes to the Champions League. Probably the two best wingers, the best winger duo that there is in the Champions League. And while I will say that I do think Lewandowski, if he starts, has weakened a little bit, has downgraded a little bit, especially in terms of finishing consistency, he is still somebody who shows up for these UCL nights. He has physicality. If Barcelona have to rely on set pieces, which can be a weakness for Newcastle's defense as well, he's going to be there for them. And so, yes, I do think Newcastle can put up a fight. I agree with you, though. It's going to be very tough.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Newcastle, yeah, their midfield could put up a fight, but I think Barca's midfield is better, and their attack is a lot better. They have more ways to break things down. They've got pace. They've got movement across the whole team. Yeah, Barca should have enough quality to control this tie overall. I could give it like a 5-3 on aggregate maybe, but yeah, it's going to be Barca for me.
Yeah, I think the only way Newcastle can win this is they take advantage of their offensive strengths. And their offense has not been consistent, especially not away from home. And even if they do hit chances, you have to remember that one of the best goalkeepers in the world this year is Joan Garcia. And I think this is just one of those matches where I think even if Newcastle has spells, like 15-minute, 30-minute spells at some point in this tie, where they're dominating, I think someone like a Garcia could just keep them from getting the ball in the net. Like sort of like this dark energy that Donnarumma has had at points for Man City, for example. I think that's also very much true for this Barcelona side. So I think Barcelona in the end, too much firepower. They should be able to go through.
All right. Then we will go on next to Atletico Madrid versus Tottenham. First, Atletico, they do look vulnerable in some of their games. They lost to Bodø Glimt, let up quite a few goals against Brugge, lost the second leg of the Copa 3-0 to Barca. But here's the thing. Their attack can rarely put in the work when it needs to. That second leg against Brugge was a 4-1. The first leg against Barca was a 4-0, and while their defense was questionable in that second leg, they did just enough, and they had done more than enough in that first leg to get them by. They've got guys like Alvarez, Sorloth, Griezmann is still doing pretty well. They have experience up front, and they can take these two-legged ties and really grind them down. Now they're taking this pretty strong, pretty experienced attack to Tottenham, who have relatively inexperienced players and are extremely defensively unstable. They can build up, I think, Atleti, an enormous lead at home in this first leg. And then if they want to play park the bus Harambal in the second leg, so be it. If Barca couldn't get past it, is Tottenham going to be able to? Because, yeah, Tottenham have got a lack of experience in the team. They've got no clear leader. Their defense is absolutely whack right now. No one seems to want to play in the back line, which is why they keep getting red cards back there. Besides that, just looking at where Tottenham are as a team, they're in the middle of an enormous relegation scrap right now in the Prem. What was Igor Tudor brought in for? He's a relegation escapist. And given Tottenham's squad already looks so down on confidence and cohesion, he's not going to be prioritizing this tie at all, I think. It would be surprising if they put much of anything into the UCL by now. Even if they win the Champions League somehow this season, doing it while getting relegated, could still be a death sentence for the team. So I know, I don't think the Spurs board is especially smart, but I think they at least recognize that this is not the kind of match you should be trying to win right now. Given Tottenham's schedule, given where they are in the league, at this point, this should not even be on their mind at all.
I think if Tottenham, by some miracle, were able to win this tie, they would probably lose to Barcelona in the next round 20-0 on aggregate. And so, if I am the Tottenham board, Igor Tudor, just anyone involved, I would strongly advise them to play an under-18 squad in both these ties and focus desperately on trying to survive and stay up in the Premier League, which, by the way, I don't think they'll be able to do. But even if they are able to survive, I think there's no reason why they should be spending any effort into this match. I think, frankly, if Atletico can't win this tie, I think that's an embarrassment for them. An utter embarrassment for another disgrace for Spanish football. And so I don't even want to talk too much about this tie. I guess what I just will say is if Tottenham had a sliver of a chance of winning this tie, it would probably be through set pieces. But unfortunately, Atletico's haram ball, their physicality, I think does sort of neutralize that advantage, where if Tottenham were playing another good team that had maybe a less physical squad, they might be able to do something. Against Atletico, I just don't see it at all. So yeah, Atleti to probably pretty easily win this tie.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a big difference in priorities here. Plus, Simeone and Atletico have knockout experience. They're generally more experienced. I can't see Atleti losing this. And I know people talk about sacking Simeone because he's constantly losing UCL finals and losing La Ligas. He's been great for Atletico. If you lose this, maybe now it is time to bring in a new manager. But yeah, Atleti to go through pretty easily, which is then going to bring us to what I think is actually a very interesting match. This was one of my toughest to try and decide. Bodø Glimt versus Sporting. I mean, Bodø used to be a novelty story in the football world. I think back to last year when they beat Lazio to get to, I think it was the semis of the Europa, got beat by Tottenham 3-2 or 4-2, and people brushed them off as just a sign of a weak European scene compared to England. Look at them now. I think they might. I think they do have a better chance of getting through to this next round than Tottenham do. A much better chance.
For sure. But that's not even a comparison. That's like comparing. Bro, what?
Well, because we saw Tottenham earlier, and they're like, oh, they're top 8 in the UCL. They'll struggle in the Prem. Now they're in a proper relegation fight. So I don't think Tottenham have a choice at this point. Whereas Bodø, yeah, they're not even playing the league right now. Their domestic league. They're happy to just put all their effort into this game right here. I think
they will be playing. I don't know if it's league matches or cup matches, but they will be playing midweek. Before the second leg.
But still, they can really prioritize UCL as they've been doing. They've been excellent at home all tournament. Naturally, they have that 4G plastic pitch, which improves pace, which is great for their quick passing style. Though they do have that pace, they're also defensively very disciplined. They can sit in a low block, really frustrate teams. Then they break quickly through players like Hawk or Hauge or Evian. They are a force to be reckoned with. The real question, I think, is just whether they can manage the emotional pressure of this game, because there are so many eyes on them now. But they handled it against Inter, and I think they can. If they can do that here, yeah, they'll be going well and away, just scoring goals through both legs. Though, as well, in terms of that pressure factor, Sporting might be a good opponent for them in that sense, because, yeah, they're the stronger team on paper, but they're not a massive European giant where there's overwhelming pressure. You've got to beat these guys. And you could say maybe that somewhat, not justifiably, but somewhat affected the losses of City, Inter, Atleti. Sporting also have been great all season. They're consistent. They're physically relentless. Guys like Trincao, Luis Suarez, the Colombian one, give them plenty of attacking threat. And I think even if they fall behind in that first leg in Norway, they are a side that will definitely keep pushing. That mentality is a big part of why they finished top 8 to begin with. Bodø's got a lot of momentum, but Sporting does have a better squad. And yeah, a deeper squad, and over 2 legs, that will help them a lot, especially as the tie moves back to Portugal.
Yeah, I think that's a very good analysis on both squads. Bodø Glimt, this is actually very ironic. This is the opposite of what you expect for a Bodø Glimt match. What I think is going to happen is throughout this tie, Bodø Glimt is going to control possession. They're going to play tiki-taka football, and Sporting are going to be the low block physicality demons that try to win on the counter. Because you're right, that offense of Trincao, Araujo, and Luis Suarez, the good Luis Suarez, can be very suffocating. Luis Suarez, by the way, has scored in his last 5 games, 6 goals in those 5 games, including the winner in the Portuguese League Cup semifinals against FC Porto. So he's on perfect form. at the perfect time. And as for Bodø, I think what we shouldn't be forgetting as well is that winter advantage, right? I know it's March, but it's fucking cold up there in Norway, and we should remember that this time last season, in I believe the round of 16, in the Europa League, they did use that to great effect to defeat Olympiacos, who is, I mean, obviously a UCL side, given that they did make the UCL knockouts, or not this stage, but the knockout qualifiers. So I agree with you. I think this is going to be a very 50-50 matchup, to be quite honest. And yeah, I mean, I kind of want to see what you say first.
Okay. I'm going to say, yeah, this first leg, I expect Bodø to go crazy with the scoring. Well, not crazy, but like they will be giving themselves a 2-goal lead. I think something like that. It'll be very entertaining. I could see them, yeah, they take a 2-goal lead into the second leg, but I do think with more depth and more experience and a strong mentality of their own, Sporting get the better of them. It could even go to like a penalty shootout, possibly. Extra time, pen shootout, maybe. But I'm going to say Sporting eventually at home do get the better of Bodø, though it will be a very hard-fought match, no doubt.
I think that's a very fair prediction. What I will say, though, is, I mean, besides winter advantage, I mean, I agree with you. I think Bordeaux's going to have a 2-goal advantage going into that second leg. Sporting can be physical and can try to break down Bordeaux's offense, but fundamentally, they're going to be chasing the game. They have to take the initiatives themselves, and that's where the sort of issue is, because while perhaps the best tactical strategy on paper is to just sit back and play on the counter, I mean, who's going to want to do that when you're 2 goals down, right? So I think if Sporting do that and actually play into Bodo's hands, it's going to be very difficult for them to come back. I think Sporting, I mean, the midfield, I think, is the issue, right? If Sporting try to play offensively and try to assume the role that all the other good teams that Bodo has beaten plays, then Bodo's going to hit them on the counter. Their midfield's not going to be able to cope with their offensive strength and speed, especially in transition, and that could spectacularly backfire. So, what I will say is, if Sporting can keep it within a goal after the first leg, they will win this. However, if it goes 2 goals down, they're going to sort of be forced into that dilemma I just mentioned, and I think that's going to cause Bodø Glimt to win both of the legs and win this tie.
Okay, interesting. Our last round of 16 tie, then we have Leverkusen versus Arsenal. And first, Leverkusen, they are a solid team, but they are not the exciting side we saw under Xabi Alonso a couple seasons ago. Under Hillman, their new manager, they've become a lot more pragmatic. Sometimes their games are just dull, flat out dull. Even if they're in their playoff tie against Olympiacos, they played the first leg out well, then sat deep and just rarely tried to protect that advantage in the second leg. And somehow, I think, came out with more XG than Olympiacos did. I don't know how that happened. But this is how Leverkusen play knockout ties. And guess what? Everything they can do, Arsenal can do better. Leverkusen still have attacking threats. Patrick Schick is, I think, a pretty underrated striker. Alex Grimaldo, always very dangerous on set pieces. But Arsenal have Saka, Eze, Gyökeres, and they're the kings of set pieces. And the Gunners are just better organized. So unless Leverkusen somehow find a strong 2-3 goal lead in the first leg, which to be clear is not like them to do, not against a team of Arsenal's level anyways. Whatever Arsenal need to do to win this tie, they can manage it. And yeah, really, I have nothing different to say about Arsenal in the UCL than I would in the Prem. They're controlled. Arteta's system isn't flashy, but it's very disciplined, especially defensively with like Saliba and Gabriel anchoring the backline. That pairing is going to be hell for Leverkusen to try and deal with. And on the other end of the pitch, Arsenal have great attacking threats. Besides the guys I mentioned earlier, even Martinelli really loves to step up for a UCL night. I think, yeah, it's Arsenal are just too composed in these sorts of games from what we've seen. They beat Bayern, Leverkusen's German brethren. They beat Bayern pretty handily, and Leverkusen can't beat Bayern handily. So who's to say they can beat Arsenal at all? I don't see much in it for this team, unfortunately.
Their one hope is Patrick Schick, right? And there is a real possibility that he doesn't even play in that first leg at home. And if that's the case, I think that's a wrap for Leverkusen. They're guaranteed to not win the tie. They're basically guaranteed to not even score a goal, and it will be just absolute humiliation. The fact is, losing Granit Xhaka, Frimpong, and Wirtz really has hurt this team, both in terms of experience and just general quality. And now they have no way to be dynamic they play a very systematic style of football, which can get them a solid win against a team like Olympiacos, sure. But with the Rice, Saliba, Gabriel trio, with even somebody like Yuri and Timber and Calafiori coming back into form, I just don't think that Leverkusen will even score. And they can try to play Harambal, but I think Arsenal have the physicality, and you're not going to out Harambal the Harambal masters throughout 2 legs in a European competition. So I don't see how Arsenal can lose this tie.
Yeah. Between Leverkusen's more subdued playing style as of recent and the straight terrorist ball that Arsenal played in some of their games, I think this is going to be the least exciting watch of the round of 16. And I'm not even sure I'd recommend that Leverkusen fans watch. Arsenal are just better organized. They have more experience. I think that it'll keep them comfortably ahead the whole way through. I'll say it's like a 3-1 on aggregate or a 3-0 or a 2-0. Maybe Leverkusen sneak one goal in there, but it will be Arsenal for sure going through.
All right, well then that is round of 16 done. Quarterfinals time. This is where it's going to get interesting, right? This is where I think we're going to have to make some controversial calls. We're probably going to have some different predictions. Okay, this is where it gets fun. Should I? Do you want to get started with your first match for the?
Yeah, sure. I'll just overview the matches quickly based on who we had going through. For me, quarterfinals is going to be Chelsea, Liverpool, City, Bayern, Barca, Atleti, and Sporting versus Arsenal. And for you, it is going to be PSG, Liverpool, City, Bayern, Barca, Atleti, and Bodø, Arsenal. So starting for me, Chelsea, Liverpool. We played Chelsea back in October. I know it's been a while, but what I do remember is those high midfield movements from like Gusto and Fernandez did a really good job of pulling our midfield around. If we have like a misplaced midfield, we've got Sobo back towards the back line again. That could be a problem. Chelsea are very comfortable attacking through wide areas, especially down the left with Cucurella. He's going to be hitting our right side, which was weak back then, still is weak now. And then also Chelsea are dangerous in transition between like Neto, Joao Pedro, and the wingers coming off the bench. They can definitely take advantage of transitions and the space behind our high press, especially. I feel like Chelsea does match up well offensively to us. I know as a Liverpool fan, I'm surely trying to find the worst that I can out of this match because I'm just being pessimistic. But I do genuinely believe they match up to us well. As for us, we have improved a lot in the midfield since that October game. Even during that game, we brought Wirtz in and he gave us someone who could actually receive the ball between the lines, connect the attack. If it's not going to be Sobo doing that for us, it has to be him. And I'm pretty sure he hopefully will be, assuming we get through the RO16, he will be there for all the way through in the quarterfinals. So that's good. But I'm also still thinking about our defensive instability because we've had a lot of games this season where we have lots of possession, still concede dangerous chances. And I think even at home in the second leg, you'd expect, we'd have a big advantage because we do have second leg at home, but it could be completely nullified by that, even if we get more possession playing at Anfield. Also, last thing, our priorities are kind of split at the moment because we do not have a stable hold on UCL football. We've still got to beat Villa.
They don't either, to be fair. I mean, they're
That's
the same
true.
boat as you.
But I think Chelsea can expend a bit more energy and priority on the UCL that we can. So, I think so.
I mean, maybe. I'm not so sure about that.
I mean, if I just check the standings quickly,
you guys are tied on points.
Oh, you know what? That's fair. Chelsea just feels like have been much more consistent than us, though. I don't know. So maybe that's something. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's not as much of a difference maker as I thought it was. But still, I feel like there are small advantages that Chelsea has over us here. I can't really find an advantage for us. Like, I don't think we're super disadvantaged here. I just can't find a pro for Liverpool in this matchup, to be honest.
I think what I will say for you guys, I mean, I have a different matchup than you, so I'm talking about a hypothetical I don't think is going to happen.
Right.
But the one pro is, I think, it's probably still the gegenpress again. I think that works well against the Chelsea squad as well, right? Because they don't have the backline to deal with that at all. I mean, they have very error-prone backline, and I think if you take advantage of a few chances there, I think that's if Liverpool are to win this hypothetical tie, I think that is how it would happen. Okay. To talk about my prediction, though, so I have PSG against Liverpool. The very unfortunate thing for Liverpool is that more than likely, barring any new injuries, Fabian Ruiz and Joao Neves will be back for this match.
Right.
And if that is the case, even if by some miracle Jeremy Frimpong doesn't injure himself again, and you actually do have Szoboszlai in the midfield,
Yeah.
you guys are getting absolutely sliced and diced in the middle of the pitch on both flanks. Even at Anfield, there's nothing you can do. I think it is very telling that in this tie, last season, you guys lost this, albeit on penalties. And while you can say that both teams have regressed to some extent, you guys have regressed way the hell more.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at this match. I think in the past, this is one where Liverpool could go through for the experience, but that's completely flipped now. This is now PSG, a team of winners, against a demoralized Liverpool with a washed-up Mo Salah and a washed-up Virgil van Dijk. And even to an extent, a washed-up Alisson. I think it is very telling that in this entire video, unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think at any point the names Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, or Alisson have been uttered.
Nope.
I think that tells you everything you need to know about this Liverpool side when it comes to playing elite clubs, and for that reason, I have PSG winning this tie.
Yeah. And as for me, I think Chelsea, Liverpool, both strong in terms of offense, have decent defenses, I guess. I mean, they're both questionable, so it kind of cancels out. But I think Chelsea just does match up better to us than we do to them. And we also, even though you could say, yes, we are level with them in the Prem, I think we also have to consider domestic cups, because it's like after how much we spend in the transfer window, we need FA Cup just to like redeem our season, really. Our priorities, I think, are ultimately more split, and I think that'll help Chelsea along just that extra bit if they need it. I'd say it's close on aggregate, but I'll give them the win here. And then you would have PSG going through. So either way, we get knocked out.
Yeah, this is a CoDaKrew prediction. Liverpool cannot get past the quarterfinals.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. You know, like that optical illusion where there's like two paths you can take, but both paths lead to the same door?
Right. And this is the door out of the UCL. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right,
This
City.
is the welcome to the Europa League door next season.
Yeah,
That's what this is.
Okay, City versus Bayern. City are still really good at controlling matches through possession, I will say. And when they get into the rhythm, it becomes very difficult for people to get the ball off of them. Midfield rotations, positional overloads that pull defenses apart. Eventually, the ball finds its way into dangerous areas, usually through like a cutback, a quick combo around the box. And then with guys like Haaland or Semenyo, you can finish off those chances consistently. City's offense is great. I really do not have much wrong I can say about them. Well, one thing is they could work together better, but you do usually have someone who can step up there and go crazy if needed. But can they maintain defensive control when the game becomes stretched? Because in big Champions League ties, I think there are always periods where the opponent breaks through the press and attacks quickly when you have high-level teams going up against each other. And in those periods, I think City have looked a bit vulnerable this season. And if Bayern can turn this into like a fast, transition-heavy game, neither team will feel all too comfortable, but especially not City, I think. Bayern's attack is an interesting one. I think they really don't need long stretches of possession to hurt you. They're perfectly happy attacking quickly once they win the ball. And if they can do that efficiently with Kane leading the line, guys like Diaz and now Musiala driving forward alongside him, they've shown they're efficient. Kane in particular makes them incredibly efficient in attack, incredibly dangerous, because he can drop deep to link play. He can finish chances inside the box. Again, as I said earlier, he can do a pretty good job as well of creating for the guys alongside him. And City, who have a solid defense, but not an Arsenal level box a team out completely defense, they're going to feel the heat from Kane and co. So I think City like to be possession heavy, but Bayern can absolutely make do with that. And so for City to deal with this matchup properly, they've just got to go out and score a lot just to be safe in that first leg. They've really got to rack the goals up. And if not, yeah, I could see that Kane and co are really going to put the pressure on them back in Germany.
Yeah, I think that's, again, I mean, just very good analysis from you. The thing is, though, I mean, City, their offense can face anybody, right? There's a reason why they've won this, the Champions League with this generation. Erling Haaland, when it comes to these UCL nights, always a massive threat. Anybody here, I mean, Phil Foden tends to step up in the UCL as well. Obviously, we've said Cherki Semenyo on amazing form as well. And Bayern's backline, I mean, we have said the City's backline is good but not spectacular. I think you can say the same thing about Bayern. Alphonso Davies, who is pretty much guaranteed to be back, unless he, sort of like Frimpong injures himself again because he wants to make sure that we Canadians crash and burn at the World Cup. he was most likely going to be back. Him as well as Conrad Leimer. They like to push up. Same thing with Manchester City. So just based on the, let's just say, lack of prioritization of defense on both of these sides, relatively speaking, I think it's going to be very high scoring. The question is, whose attack do you trust more? On paper, I actually think it's Bayern. I think on paper, Bayern have the better offense. Kane, Musiala can absolutely still step it up in these sorts of competitions. Olise has been excellent. Luis Diaz has been excellent. Even Carl, the youngster, I mean, he has already shown that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big the night is. He can really step up. I mean, I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think he's the guy who scored against Arsenal earlier in the Champions League, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this Bayern side full of strong attackers. The question is, how many of them are UCL ready? Because Bayern has won the Champions League not that long ago, but not a single player I just mentioned was on that roster.
Yeah, it's going to be questionable. Right, Bayern don't quite have the experience on this roster, I feel like. But it will be, I think, a very close game. I'm going to say City. The last thing I'll say could be a differentiating factor here is like with Liverpool. I feel like City's priorities are a bit split. They are still chasing Arsenal for the Prem title. And as for Bayern in the Bundesliga, I want to say it's like 10 points ahead that they are of Dortmund right now.
The Bundesliga is over.
Yeah, they can afford to drop points, right? So I'm just going to say it might not necessarily be just that on its own, but I'll say Bayern get the edge here. Again, it'll be a very close one for me. I'll say it's 4-3 on aggregate. But yeah, it'll be, or sorry, this is your thing, but it'll be Bayern for me.
Yeah. You can maybe can you remove my thing?
I can't reset it, but I'll just I'll wait
whatever.
for your prediction to come up. Yeah.
That's fine. Well, actually I do have the same prediction as you, and I have the same reasoning as you as well. I think the deciding factor is the fact that Bayern Munich have the Bundesliga completely locked up. In fact, recently they played at Dortmund away from home. They won that match. And so I think if Dortmund had any chance of coming back, it would be if they still had like a game in hand against Bayern. They don't. It's cooked. City, I mean, here's my honest opinion is that I don't think City has that much of a hope of winning the Premier League at this point. But does Pep realize that? I don't think so. I think Pep is maybe a little bit delusional about the City squad. And that's going to hurt them. So, yeah, I mean, I think if we're considering all the factors, it includes stuff like that. And these small differences can be a huge deal. I mean, for example, I think one reason, at least not to take away from the squad, but one benefit to what caused that PSG Champions League victory last season was the fact they had locked up the league way before a lot of their main competitors had. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. I have a Bayern win this time.
Okay. Then Barca Atleti next. We've already seen both extremes of this matchup, right? In the Copa del Rey tie. When Barca's press wasn't working in the first leg, their whole system collapsed. Flick plays with like a pretty aggressive high line, and if that front press isn't relentless enough, there is lots of space behind them. Atleti absolutely feasted on that. But the second leg showed the other side too, because when Barca pressed properly, they suffocated Atletico. And I think Barca, learning from the Copa, they can manage to do that again here. They'll dominate the ball for long stretches, try to pin Atletico back with their pressing and their positional play. And if they can keep that tempo high enough, not necessarily an easy feat, I will say, because they've got to be consistent. But if they can do that, like they did in the return leg, Atleti will struggle to get out. Atletico, though, a bit like Bayern, they don't need too much of the ball to hurt a team, not for super extended stretches anyways. This team they're still defensively disciplined, but now they're much more vertically explosive when they win that ball. And yeah, that first Copa match showed exactly how they want to attack Barcelona. Win the ball, release the runners immediately, and yeah, exploit that space behind Barca's high line. They also showed in the second leg that they're perfectly capable of parking the bus, playing their standard Haram ball even against an opponent like Barca, and protecting that lead as much as they need to. And that kind of defensive structure, we saw it was frustrating for Barca before. It can very much be again. I think this will be a very close one for me to try and predict. If Atleti can build up a strong lead in the first leg, then yeah, just given what literally happened a few days ago, I'm really going to be questioning Barca's ability to find some sort of remontada. But Atleti should still be trying to score a lot because Barca were able to get 3 in the return fixture. And yeah, they can they can try. They can try and mount a comeback for sure. If Atleti don't do enough, they can maybe make it work in the second.
Yeah, I think they are capable of doing that. They're a squad, like you said. I mean, that 4-0 victory against Barcelona, they had 34% possession, at home, by the way, and they get a dominant 4-0, a deserved 4-0 victory. That is the kind of squad we're dealing with Atletico. And another thing is, I mean, their attackers really fit the profile of somebody you want to face against Barcelona. As you were talking about, Barcelona's high line, it leaves them vulnerable to balls in behind. And, I mean, you look at who's on this Atletico offense. Uh, Alexander Sorloth, uh, Antoine Griezmann. These are the sorts of players. Even as they've signed in the winter transfer window, Adeola Lookman, they are very good at taking runs in behind, one-on-one opportunities, and there's just not much Barcelona can do in that situation, right? I would say the one player who doesn't really fit that, and who honestly I would say their attacker who has been on the worst form recently. I think this is quite a controversial opinion. I think it's actually Julian Alvarez. But even if you ignore him, I mean, Atletico have the physicality. They literally won this tie, last month. And so it's going to be difficult, I think, for Barcelona to win this. The question is, though, can Atletico actually take down Barcelona's midfield? And I think there's one crucial factor. There's one reason why I think even though Atletico won that leg against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey, I think Barcelona can win this tie in the Champions League. And the reason is Atletico was able to break down Barcelona's midfield, especially in that first leg. And honestly, I don't think the second leg even matters. They let Barcelona have the midfield there. It's because Barcelona did not have a single difference maker that could cook Atleti's press. That's because Pedri was still injured in that first leg. Pedri's back, and that's the reason why I have Barcelona winning this match.
Yeah. I think, it's going to be a big stylistic clash. I expect it to be pretty close all the way through, but you're right. Barca have got, I think, more of a player advantage. Definitely a stronger roster with Pedri back now. I'll just give it to them. I think they can outscore Atleti by just a bit. I'll say it's like a 4-3, but yeah, I'll give it to them on aggregate. And lastly, Sporting Arsenal. First for Sporting, I think they've got a nice physical edge to them. Guys like Trincao, Luis Suarez, giving them a real attacking threat. They also have, again, a strong mentality, big part of how they've gotten this far to begin with. But this tie is just extremely difficult for them. Arsenal are one of the most organized defensive teams in Europe. Sporting are not really even the type of team that can break down a compact structure over long stretches. And it's just Arsenal. I mean, I feel like I'm saying the same stuff I did for Leverkusen. This team is very pragmatic. They control possession. They limit transitions. They trust that just eventually their attacking quality will find the goals that they need. That defensive pairing, Saliba, Gabriel, makes it very difficult for opponents to find consistent chances. Arsenal are still incredibly dangerous from set pieces. Plus, they have Gyökeres, who I saw an Athletic headline on recently that called him a good small game player. Which does sound bad, and it's true that against Big Six teams he's not great. But against a team who plans on hunkering down for a 0-0 draw, which could well be Sporting, especially at the away leg at the Emirates, Gyökeres has got you covered, man. Funny how one of the teams he might be best against is his former employer. But with him up front and guys like Eze and Saka, Arsenal can both find lots of chances, lots of attacking threat, and they can take them very well. They'll be efficient. And that backline, it's like, what more can I say about that backline? It's solid. It's great. So Sporting, I think, they're not a bad side, but Arsenal are just way more complete. I don't even know the Sporting score in this tie. Maybe I'll give them one goal, but I'll say Arsenal get through.
Okay. If I were to talk about your hypothetical tie, I think it's... Actually, can I just say something crazy in case it is Sporting vs Arsenal? We can come back to this in a few months if I'm right. First leg, the first goal scorer in that tie is a half volley from outside the box by Luis Suarez, but Arsenal ends up winning it 3-1.
Okay.
I'm just saying that now.
Oh, like the aggregate, or they win that game?
On aggregate.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to say that right now, so we can come back to this moment in, I guess it would be a month, I believe, or maybe just over a month. Yeah. So I said it, but anyways, that's not my prediction because I do have Bodø Glimt coming through, and on the one hand, I want to say Bodø Glimt's winter advantage will be, hurt a little bit now that they're in this match against Arsenal. But at the same time, I do believe they did beat Lazio in April in a very similar situation during the same time of year. What I will say is, I think Bodø Glimt, their sort of tiki-taka style of football, their offensive, their hyper-offensive really football, it hurts a lot of good teams because they just don't have, they're just not expecting it. When you play possession football, that ability to hurt you in transition is such a big loss. But the thing is, that doesn't really apply to Arsenal, does it? Right? I mean, even guys like Yuri and Timber and Calafiori who can push up are still very solid defenders. The backline is just too good. The midfield, I think, if there's a midfield that even at Norway can neutralize this offensive style, it probably is Arsenal's. Just with how defensively solid they are. So, yeah, I think no matter which side ends up coming out on top here, it's another CoDaKrew saying that Arsenal is going to win this tie either way.
Yeah, Arsenal does. Okay, then
can I just note real quick?
Yeah.
We had divergent opinions for some of these round of 16 matches,
Right.
but we have the same semifinal matchups now.
Yes, we do. We've got well, actually, not the same semis. We do have PSG.
Oh,
and
you're
Chelsea's
right.
the one
No, you're right.
yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, Barca Arsenal. People have been talking about it's not the right side of the bracket for us; it's the bottom side in this format. But this half of the bracket is just, it seems so dead set to be a Barca Arsenal semi. It's like, who is going to break through that here? But yeah. I'll get started with Chelsea Bayern for the semis. When these two teams met in September, neither one controlled the game completely. But here's the thing: the moment Chelsea made a mistake, Bayern punished them immediately. Kane punished them immediately. I know he was often deeper than usual to compensate for Musiala's absence, but he was still managing to pull the ball all the way to the front line, shielded the ball well the whole way through. He got a penalty for one of those goals. He was, again, able to create chances for the guys around him. He is a great leader, and he was able to keep Bayern extremely efficient in that final third. And though Chelsea competed pretty strongly, Kane's and Bayern's experience eventually made the difference in that game. Chelsea look better now, but ultimately most of their guys are inexperienced in these big knockout games, so that could work in Bayern's favor. And yeah, Chelsea, they've improved since then. Their performances are more controlled, as you see in like the game versus Villa, for example, circulating the ball well, waiting for chances to appear. But they've got a lack of experience, and especially a lack of discipline, that yellow and red card issue they've been having in the league, which I think could, to an extent, come into this two-legged tie as well. Some people as well might contend as an advantage that, Chelsea are pretty good at attacking set pieces. Well, Bayern are too. And they're both pretty shit at defending them. So that just like completely cancels out. What I'm going to say is, before with Liverpool Chelsea, I talked about, I can't see. Well, yeah, you brought up the gegenpressing, Darian, but I couldn't see more besides that really an advantage for Liverpool. And in this case, I just can't see much of an advantage for Chelsea. I think I feel like I've already spoiled my result a bit, but I'll just say it now. I buy Bayern, take it. I'm gonna have Bayern.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If it's Chelsea against Bayern, I think that's a done deal.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Rosinier's side. Well, I do think if it's PSG against Bayern, now that's going to be really interesting. Because this is now the defending champions back in the semifinals. I think the further along PSG go, I mean, it's always hard to say for sure. The further along we go in the Champions League, the more and more likely it is that Lens has slipped up and PSG has won League One, right? I mean, that was a big advantage we were talking about against Man City. And so if it is going to be PSG basically fully rested for this match against Bayern fully rested for this match, I think when I say this would be a lot harder for Bayern than against Chelsea, it's not just the quality, it's this factor as well. To talk about the specifics here, though, I think on paper, I might expect PSG to have more chances in this match. They probably have a slightly better midfield. But Germany, I mean, I just said Germany instead of Bayern. But I think that goes to show a lot about what this Bayern team is really made of. They have a ruthless efficiency about them. Pavlovic, and especially Joshua Kimmich, and his mentality, it's going to be very difficult for even a dynamic midfield for like PSG to really do too much about it. Obviously, this is overshadowed by the finals of the Club World Cup, but these two teams play each other I don't remember if it was the quarters or the semis. I think it was the quarters of the Club World Cup as well. And had there not been a red card against Bayern Munich in that match, I think there's a real chance that they would have won that tie and ended up winning the Club World Cup as a sum total. So then what I think it comes to now is who is able to take advantage of their chances better. I think PSG, their offense has regressed to an extent from last season. Kavica Kvaratskhelia was the ultimate boogeyman for PSG last season. He's been on a bit of a downgrade offensively. Barcola, not a consistent finisher. Doué and Ousmane Dembele are still absolutely amazing, to be fair. But when you match it up against the quality that Bayern have, a Ballon d'Or level Harry Kane, Olise and Diaz being two of the best attackers. I mean, even when it comes to the depth, I think this is one where Bayern can really take advantage, which could matter if this game goes into 2 legs, potentially even extra time. I think Bayern have this. I think Bayern can just edge this out slightly.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, then to finish off the semis, we're gonna have Barca Arsenal, and I know I said Barca could be the best attacking team in this competition right now. You said Bayern. I do think Barca at their peak would be the best because they've got Yamal stretching defenses, Pedri controlling the tempo, multiple runners around the box. They can overwhelm teams at their best, but that system is, like I said before, extremely volatile. Flick's high defensive line and aggressive pressing again create huge spaces behind. If that press isn't close to inch perfect, they will be taken advantage of. And we've already seen games this season where they have been, like the 4-0 loss to Atleti, or Barca had a 2-1 win against Newcastle, but at the start of that game, Newcastle did get quite a few attacking chances. Kubarsi and Joan Garcia looked a bit questionable at the start of that game.
Do you have Arsenal winning a quadruple? What's going on right now?
I mean, well, I don't think Barca are getting through against them. I don't see it as especially likely. I just feel like...
Oh boy.
Okay. Yeah, Arsenal are, if I'm going to talk about them, are just like almost the complete opposite to Barca stylistically. They're the most defensively stable side in this tourney. Yeah, anchored by Saliba and Gabriel, supported by a very disciplined midfield. They hardly ever look spectacular anymore going forward, but they're incredibly difficult to break down. Of course, they're extremely dangerous from set pieces. You kind of got to mention that. It is just such a big advantage for them. We see that stability being important in the Prem. I think it'll be even more so in a 2-legged tie like this. And they'll largely prevent, I think, the kind of chaos that Barca thrive on, when the game is going well for Barca, that is. So I feel like even though Barca are not going to want it to be the case, this could stay pretty low scoring, relatively speaking. And while I do still imagine Arsenal will have split priorities while this is being played out, well, it's not even necessarily an advantage for Barca here because they'll still be dealing with the title. I imagine Madrid's not going to be down and out of the La Liga.
I guess the question is, sorry to interrupt. Because Barcelona and Arsenal are clearly the favorites to win their domestic leagues, respectively.
Right.
The question is, does Real Madrid or Man City pose a more credible title challenge?
Well, I talked about the mid-off Barca and Madrid were having. I think Madrid poses more of a challenge to Barca than Man City does to Arsenal.
But you have Man City beating Real Madrid in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily analogous, but...
Right. No, that's fair. I just feel like the way specifically in La Liga that things have been going, where they're just 1 week after the other, one of those two teams is losing a match. I feel like there will be more pressure on Barca. Not to say there won't be pressure on Arsenal. Like, every game they've still got to take seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I do feel like Barca and Madrid could be neck and neck when this match plays out. Whereas Arsenal maybe have like a 3-4 point lead over City.
I apologize to any Real Madrid fans in advance.
You think Barca's destroyed them by this point?
I think
they're
Real Madrid is imminently going to collapse completely in La Liga. Because here's what I'll say: the reason that Barcelona was rounding points recently was Pedri being out. That's a huge loss for them. Now the reason Real Madrid has been losing recently, or has lost, for example, to Girona recently, did not look too spectacular. I think the win over Celta Vigo, I believe it was. It's that, it's Mbappe, Bellingham, and Rodrigo being out. And they have a bunch of other injuries as well, which, while they're not starting 11 players, when it comes to the sum total of a season, like players like Alvaro Carreras, a few other players I think are also suspended, that's going to really hurt them. And that's not the case for Barcelona at all. They have a lot of depth. So I think if anything, not if anything, I think this straight up, Man City for me pose clearly more of a threat to Arsenal's title than Real Madrid do to Barcelona right now. Unless, of course, Barcelona pick up some more injuries in the next few months. Then, obviously, things can change. But that's actually the mindset I'm coming into this. I actually think that Barcelona are going to be more rested coming to this match than Arsenal are. And tell me if I'm wrong. Isn't Arsenal also still in the FA Cup?
They are, true.
And Barcelona is out of their League Cup as well.
Right, they are.
So this is one where I think Arsenal are going to be the ones that are dealing with with a conflict
Split
of priorities.
Okay.
Yeah. And Barcelona are going to be all in on this match. Because, I think what Barcelona wanted last season, I think Lamine Yamal, especially, same thing can be said for Rafinha, but I think especially for Lamine Yamal, that was the chance for them to win the treble or the quadruple. And ultimately, what this is really about was that was the year Lamine Yamal could have, if Barcelona won the Champions League, won the Ballon d'Or. This is not something we have said directly yet, but as you and I both know, the Champions League is the most important competition for that trophy. Really, the second most is just the World Cup this season. But just for example, right, if Barcelona win the Champions League, great position for Lamine Yamal. If Arsenal win the Champions League, great position for Declan Rice. Same thing about Harry Kane. Same thing about Dembele repeat. You get what I'm trying to say here. So I think when it comes to this match, tactically speaking, Arsenal can neutralize a lot of Barcelona's midfield strengths. Of course, I think the tiki-taka system Arsenal can neutralize and turn it into a low-scoring match. The question is, who do you trust more to take advantage of those chances? Barcelona have the high line, and on paper, Martinelli and Gyökeres can exploit it. But as you were saying, Gyökeres is a small game player, right? It doesn't matter if he gets those opportunities if he can't take advantage of them against one of the best goalkeepers in the world right now, Joan Garcia. And even if Arsenal, do amazing defending, how do you defend an outside the box curler by Lamine Yamal, right? So I think it comes to these small splits. Like Real Madrid, for example, won a lot of Champions League ties while having less possession, less chances, by just being more clinical with the chances they get. And I think when it comes to that, it's Barcelona having a clear advantage, and I actually have Barcelona winning this tie.
So you have a Barca-Bayern final then, yes?
I have a Barca-Bayern final.
I'm sure Bayern would hate to play Barca in the final. They would hate it. They would hate it.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it could be close, but I'm going to give it to Arsenal. Barca just seems a bit unstable to me at the moment, and there's a higher probability that, you're playing two matches here. It's a two-legged tie. There's a higher probability that shows up.
I just think the only time Barca were unstable was when they had those injuries. And when Arsenal had midfield injuries, they looked unstable too, didn't they? So, sorry, okay. I don't want to push back too hard, but just... I have a strong, adverse reaction to the possibility that Arsenal might win a quadruple this year. Not that I have anything against Arsenal, but that would just be so... Okay, I'm sorry. It would be so... I'm going to be biased. It's going to be so bad for football if a Haram ball FC side just dominates everything.
Through, right. I
last season, I was so excited about PSG winning it because they played a beautiful Luis Enrique offensive style of football. I don't want the opposite to win the UCL.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, we've both got Bayern in the final. You've got Arsenal knocked out in the semis. I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with that. Because to be fair, Arsenal has looked dominant in a lot of matches. But I do agree
they have not. Wait, you think they've looked dominant recently? They have not looked dominant. Not recently. In the UCL earlier.
Oh, I look back to that Bayern.
That's true. Yeah, for sure.
But I agree. Their split priorities could get to the better of them. And that will be actually something for me to talk about in this game. First off, Arsenal already beat Bayern earlier in the season, pretty handily at that. But it's worth saying that does not necessarily decide a knockout meaning, because the same thing actually happened with Arsenal versus PSG, Arsenal, I want to say, was a 2-0 win against PSG early in the group stage, and PSG
Yes.
returned the favor.
You're talking about last season.
Right, last year,
Yeah.
yes. And I know Arsenal doesn't have too many defensive lapses, but again, Bayern has shown that they can punish those very efficiently whenever they do come. They can find goals out of not even defensive lapses necessarily, but teams allowing them just a little bit of space. I think of that Luis Diaz goal versus Union Berlin, absolutely insane. But Bayern have players that can create some stuff like that. You talked about like Yamal, for example, for Barca. He can do something like that, and I agree that is absolutely an advantage for Barca. And I think same thing. It could be an advantage for Bayern here. To Arsenal's credit, though, they've shown that they can absolutely trouble Bayern tactically. Arteta's pressing traps caused huge problems for them in that match earlier, forced Bayern into some uncomfortable areas, really limited Kane's ability to receive and turn between the lines. And I just think it's hard to overstate how stable that defense is, right? Giving them a secure base as well to attack from. Of course, I've got to again mention the set pieces too, because that's going to matter in the tight final. My concern, I guess, with Arsenal is their attacking from open play can be pretty inconsistent. You look at like the Wolves game, or even more so the recent Brighton win, which I talked about in our last video when I was doing reactions to that match week. For long stretches, these guys are playing no attacking football at all. You could argue they're not playing football. They're playing a different sport at that point. And if they're going to do that here, I just think that if they're going to have no consistent attacking pressure of their own, they've really got to get that defense perfectly, which they could do. They're capable of that. But it's going to have to be like close to perfect to keep Bayern's threat quiet. Arsenal, I'd say, are the better team. More complete, though, again, you could still point out some concerns with the attack. I don't know why. Maybe actually the final factor I'm going to say is Bayern are very much safe in the Bundesliga by this point. And I think City could still be chasing Arsenal for the Prem title.
Well, hang on. I should state that by the time we get to the finals, the Premier League...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm stupid. What I meant to say actually was not that they're going to have to deal with the title race still, but whether they win or lose, I think Arsenal will have less energy.
Okay, that's fair, yeah.
I think they will have less energy than Bayern will. Bayern can do what we did at the end of last season, Liverpool. Take a vacation for the last few matches. True. Except instead of actually going to like the Bahamas for a month, they will probably be spending their time focusing in on the UCL. And that'll help them by. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to say it's like a 2-0, or not a 2-0, a 2-1 win to Bayern. It would be especially something if Arsenal somehow got denied in the Prem and then this happens to finish off the season.
Man, but, that would be so bad.
I'm going to say there's a few just like small factors there.
Listen, I have to say this now. Dude, is Arsenal going to be the fucking Inter Milan of this season? Denied in Serie A on the last match day.
And then denied UCL?
Denied narrowly in the Coppa Italia by their rivals and denied in the UCL. Right. Holy shit.
I guess at least it won't be a 5-0 like last season. I'm very confident that that's not happening.
If that happens, it's fucking... Brother, if this permutation happens at all, Arsenal losing the Premier League on the last match day, Arsenal losing the Champions League in the finals, riots in London.
Yep.
Like, actual, like, fires in London. That is, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and their rival fans will be supplying them the flares, man. Tottenham are going to be relegated by this point, but they'll be happy with the season just because Arsenal get fucked again.
And
right?
What I will say, by the way, as well, I mean, this is not so much a thing, I think, if it's Barcelona against Bayern. If it's Bayern against Arsenal, wouldn't you say this is practically a home match for Bayern? Because this is going to be in Budapest, and I mean,
right.
Look at how close Bavaria is.
Yeah, you're getting more German fans here for sure.
You're going to get more German fans there. Okay. Anyways, my prediction though, my thing, I have Bayern Munich against Barcelona in the final. Man, this is tough. Because I said earlier, I think Bayern has the best attack in the world right now. They have... I mean, I could go player by player, but I just trust this Bayern attack more. I think in the midfield, here's the thing, right? Kimmich and Pavlovic, when necessary, when the fullbacks push up, they can sort of join the back line, and they can provide coverage. But I don't know how much that's going to matter when you just have these impact players, when you have the Rafinhas, the Lamine Yamals. If they make this game high scoring and it goes out of control, then I think that's a lot of trouble. I think that's big trouble for a team like Bayern. And I think on the contrary, if it's a low scoring match, that's what would cause Bayern to win this tie. I mean, I think of the Champions League in 2020. Bayern won that 1-0 against PSG. They didn't really control the game all that much, but they just were able to do just enough to get a win here. I think if it were Bayern against Arsenal, I'll say this: if it was Bayern against Arsenal in the finals, I think Bayern wins that 1-0, and it's Joshua Kimmich who scores the winning goal. But in this match, I think it will be high scoring because Barcelona's midfield identity and ability is so strong that I don't think any amount of discipline, defensive capability can stop them. And that's the same sort of reason why I have them ultimately beating Arsenal. And so when it comes to who do I trust to take advantage of chances, I would say beating Bayern Munich more, but I just don't think they will get as many chances. And with Barcelona, there's going to be a lot of focus placed on Lamine Yamal and Rafinha, right? If that ends up leading to Fermin and Lewandowski getting chances in the final third, I know Lewandowski has not been the most consistent finisher, but you give him enough chances, he's going to score. That could be a difference maker. And you know what there's sort of one storyline going here that we haven't talked about yet, and it's in I believe 2013 or 2012. Lewandowski, at that time playing for Dortmund, loses the Champions League final to Bayern, and then he ends up joining Bayern. Now, the former striker for Bayern, the player who won a Champions League for Bayern, will now be facing his old club in the Champions League final. And I think ultimately he's going to carry that throne with him. Barcelona, through a winner by Robert Lewandowski, the fucking 58-year-old Robert Lewandowski, Barcelona is going to somehow, with his last hurrah, win the 2026 Champions League.
Wow. All right. So not only did we have different finals, we had different winners as well. Yeah. I mean, our one team that we had shared didn't even win in both. Okay. Well, that is our full UCL predictions. I've got Bayern beating Arsenal in this final. You've got Barca beating Bayern in your final. Yeah. It's a long video. We're like close to 80 minutes now, if not 80 minutes. But
this is pure football content. I don't even.
Yeah, and if
they're gonna watch through it, man.
We're going to be doing more videos, of course, for UCL as these rounds continue on. Like after round of 16, we're going to have a video after quarterfinals, etc., etc. But if you want to come back to this video, get some good, pretty in-depth analysis, maybe you want to place an early bet, get your closing line value up on it. Yeah, absolutely. Come back and rewatch once these rounds start to pass through. And we will also be going back to some of our earlier predictions. We'll be looking at what did we expect? What went right? What went wrong? Etc. But yeah, with that said, of course, we're going to have more Prem videos as usual. But do stay tuned once this round of 16 ends for another set of UCL predictions. And we will be continuing that for the whole tournament. Yeah. Have a good one.